today we'll talk about something that's often floated about in the corporate world. They call it a growth mindset. Maybe we could call it a learning mindset. And my idea is to encourage other parents to think about how they talk to their children so that we never limit ourselves, the moms, or even our children. Because you often hear people say things like, oh, I'm useless at maths. I can't draw to save my life. I can't play a note to, on a piano. Music's just not my thing. And we say things like this, and then children catch that meaning that you're either good at something or you're not. And it's actually a lie, because a lot of experts say that we can all keep learning. And with home education, our children aren't going to be thrown in that classroom where you didn't get the one-on-one attention you needed for maths or for language or whatever it was that a mom perhaps struggled with at school. So I want to say, we all need to say to our kids, like, I didn't like maths at school, or I wasn't good at it, but you can learn anything, and I'm going to learn it with you, and we can show our children by example also that we are learning new skills, or we are improving in things that we aren't particularly good at, or we're trying something. I know you've done this yourself, so maybe you talk about the things that you've struggled with and things that you've also learned as an adult, and how you handled things like this with your kids.
Yeah, so, well, it was a joke in our family, because when we said to my father that we were going to be homeschooling, the first thing, besides the panic that was all over his face, was, who's going to teach your children maths? Because everybody knew that literally, 2 + 2 is 5 in my world. And so it was like, who's gonna do this? And luckily we found our way to a really great maths program. But every single day I would sit down with this program and be faced with my own feelings of phobia and inadequacy, and worrying about passing that on to my children. But I kind of just thought, well, actually, I'm a grown-up. And if at 25 I can't do grade 1 maths, so you kind of, you have to overcome it. And then the primary school years were fine. We figured it out together. And where I was struggling, I would say to the kids, you know what, we can actually go and find this out together and overcome it. And clearly, I mean, besides the fact that we shifted over to tutors for our youngest one in grade 11, he's turned out to be an engineer. So I clearly didn't hand over my inadequacy. Our children's futures are not based on what we know or what we don't know. It's about the attitude of heart and the character and facing difficulties and let's overcome this together kind of thing. And it's just one example. There's lots of other ones that are out.
I know another homeschool mother who also didn't enjoy maths at all at high school and wasn't very good at it. And she said it was completely different doing algebra as a 45-year-old compared to when she was a 15-year-old. Her whole level of confidence and everything had changed. So I think we must remember that what we thought maybe was difficult in high school, when we were struggling in a class with 30 kids and our peers and no one to help us, is completely different to our children who are getting one-on-one attention, can ask for help, have a teacher guide with the answers in the back. It's a completely different scenario for maths in particular, because that's the one lots of people have anxiety over. But I know you and I both also learned how to build websites. And I think that's another example just of something that we did, and other parents will do other things. But we couldn't learn that when we were in high school. The internet didn't exist, but we needed those skills for what we were doing. And we learned it. We even know a little bit of HTML coding, and coding's not my thing at all, but I know how to do what I need to for our websites. I also have a friend who was in her 50s and started playing a music instrument for the first time in her life, and put effort in, and eventually was accompanying her teacher and playing at events. So it's never too late to start learning new skills if you didn't do those things when you were at school or when you were younger.
Correct. And we've called, the world calls it growth mindset, and we've given it another little name, learning mindset. But I actually think this goes like way back 200 years. Charlotte Mason called it mother culture. And
Yes.
and that is, it's not about me just slipping away to have a cup of tea and a quiet read of a poem. It can be that, but it is also, as she says, for our future usefulness, we need to be growing ourselves and not stagnate. And the example that she uses is that our children, when they're young, when they're babies, and they're so delightful, and we just completely throw ourselves into the toddler years and then the preschool years and the art and the craft. She says, if you wake up one day and your children are now 16 and you're still hankering after those young years and you haven't grown, you've lost your future usefulness. And she says we need to always be growing and learning and, taking the time to adventure into new things, whether it is like, you've mentioned a couple of your friends. I've got a friend who learned how to, from her own sheep that she raised, card the wool and spin the wool and knit from this wool and dye the wool. And, and it doesn't mean that, that's the thing that we must do, but it was just an opportunity was there. She took it. She said, I'm going to learn how to do this old-fashioned skill and go for it. So not to say, well, our day is only about schooling and then cleaning the house and cooking a meal. What can we do and grow in for our future usefulness? Which is, I think, quite interesting that, Charlotte Mason saw these things so many years before, and the need hasn't actually changed for us as moms.
That's right. And I think it's a great example we have to set for our children that learning is lifelong and anybody can learn anything. And just one last thought. I also read something recently about somebody who, as a child, met an adult who asked him what his interests are. And they were not sort of sports and all the popular things that a typical high schooler would do. He was into more of the cultural things, drama and music, and I can't remember what else it was. And this adult said to him, he said, and I do these things and I play the violin, but I'm not very good at it. And this adult said to him, it doesn't matter that you're not good at it. It's wonderful that you do all these things that you enjoy.
Yeah.
And he said that that moment stayed with him forever because he realized that you don't just have to do things to be good at them and to earn praise and prizes. You can just do things because you enjoy them. And I think that's such a good message to pass on to our children, that we value them as people for who they are. It doesn't matter how good they are or not good they are at sport and music or whatever it is that they do. They should enjoy it.
Absolutely.
And just keep learning what they want to keep learning.
Yeah, and I'll just throw in one last little cameo from our home. Recently, my husband decided he was going to go and get himself his radio ham license, and he had to do 12 weeks of physics and electromagnetic studies, and he had to do this whole course. And he would walk in after these eyes as wide as saucers. He says, I know nothing, I know nothing. And our son doing engineering said, no, Dad, you got this, you can do this, and gave passed. And he's now set up his aerials and making contacts all over the Western Cape, and just loving the new experience and watching our children, as adults, watching their dads still pursue something new, something interesting is actually quite inspiring for them. And again, it goes to the thing, we never stop learning, and we shouldn't. We should embrace it as an opportunity all the time so our kids can follow along.